Hi everyone, Quaithany It Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Anderson .Paak record, Ventura. This is the latest full-length album from singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, producer from Anderson. Don't forget the .Paak! We just heard from this man toward the end of 2018 with his last full-length album, Oxnard, a Dr. Dre-backed project that was one of my favorites of that year. I loved the vintage and cinematic and colorful production on this thing, the super catchy songwriting, the fantastic feature list, which led to some incredible performances from Kendrick Lamar as well as Pusha T. There were also some very weird and entertaining detours in the track list on this thing, like Who Are You, as well as Six Summers. And given that Anderson .Paak musically is a bit of a jack of all trades, this thing featured a pretty wide array of influences from funk and soul to contemporary hip-hop and R&B. Now, I get that there is a contingent of Anderson .Paak fans who prefer his 2016 album Malibu to Oxnard. I get it, but in my opinion, Oxnard is just so great and to the point. Pound for pound, I view it as the more focused and ambitious album, and Anderson seems to be striking while the iron is hot with a new, full record of music less than a year later, and he's teased to the release of this album by saying it's more of a soul-centric project. Now, given that it's Anderson .Paak and soul music has pretty much inspired everything he's done up until this point, how much of a sea change is that really going to be? I mean, not only does the material on this record also have Dr. Dre's fingerprints on it, but it sounds like it was recorded and conceptualized and written in the same headspace that all of Oxnard's material was too. But the difference being that many tracks on this record do actually slide further to the soul side of the Anderson .Paak music spectrum and have a mellower presentation as well. So if you were being a totally uncharitable jerk, you could look at this record and say, isn't this just leftovers? Isn't this just Oxnard leftovers? But we're not going to do that because there's no real reason to complain about another consistent, entertaining Anderson .Paak album. There's not. Now look, I'm not trying to say this is a perfect record or anything like that. There are a handful of moments that really do underwhelm and disappoint, like the musical Bridge to Nowhere that Good Heels is, or the incredibly awkward instrumental transition after an amazing first leg on the track Reachin' Too Much. The soft, faint, and smooth soul passage this track eventually shifts into is kind of awkward at points. A lot of Anderson .Paak's vocal embellishments on this track come off a bit weird, not to mention there are a few head-scratching lyrics. I see you too much, baby, I need to take some space. You kiss me too much, baby, forgot to wipe my face. Ew, that's gross. What, are you getting spit all over your face? What? Maybe some lipstick, though that doesn't really seem to be successfully conveyed here. I mean, the track starts great, but it misses the landing, and the song Chosen One I see almost as like a flip of that. With the constant beat embellishments in the first leg of this track, the random rushes of synthetic tones, as well as Sonia Elise's very strong vocal lines, this song is like a confusing 10-car pileup of sound. It's got a lot of noise, but it's not composed all that cleanly. Thankfully, the track does eventually clear up into some irresistibly cute piano chords, some funky grooves and beats, some really sick bars and rap flows from Anderson .Paak, some hilarious lyrical nods to MF Doom as well as Sailor Moon. But I think my least favorite track on this entire album most definitely comes down to Twilight. Mostly because the instrumental on this cut is absolutely awful. With this soul-sucking kick and snare pattern, it just simply goes bah, 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 bah. Sure, there are some twittering percussive embellishments throughout that beat, but it is very grooveless and stiff. Also, the fake horn line on this cut gets really corny too. Also, the bow 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 rubbery bass line, it sounds like a horrible Pharrell ripoff. And then of course I went into the production credits of this album and saw Pharrell actually made it. Look, Pharrell is a great guy, fantastic artist, and I know every beat he makes is not going to be the best beat in the world, but he could have easily given this instrumental to Justin Timberlake for it to be completely forgotten for the rest of eternity on his last record. He could have at least done that. Anderson .Paak did not deserve this beat. He should have gotten a way better beat because it's so freaking tedious. And I feel like Anderson .Paak, vocally, he does his best on top of the track. He does what he can do on top of it. But the song itself he's singing comes off super tedious because I think he's working within the confines of this very repetitive instrumental, unfortunately. Thankfully, the highlights on this record outshine, for the most part, the moments here. There's the silky and gorgeous kickoff to the entire album featuring Andre 3000, Come Home. Great start to this thing. Also evokes the same classic vintage era of soul and soundtrack music that Oxnard was pulling from. I love the airy background vocals on this thing, the light touches of guitar and percussion. I also love the strings on this cut, the glamorous pianos, the nimble bass line. The sense of longing that Anderson .Paak delivers on the hook of this track is deep, it is thick. I also love the meta commentary that he works into the hook of nobody even begs anymore. And as if the track wasn't already good enough on its own, and it is. I mean, it could have easily slipped into the track list on Oxnard and been great. But on top of that, again, you get this Andre 3000 performance, which is killer. The way he switches his flow up on this song is amazing. His delivery is incredible. And the wet twat Harriet Tubman line in his verse proves him to be, still to this day, one of the most eccentric rappers and writers out there. The song Make It Better featuring Smokey Robinson. Sure, the instrumental here is a bit basic, especially from the standpoint of the drums, but Anderson .Paak's kind of raspy and expressive and golden voice delivers a wonderful classic soul tune on this one. I love the sentiment of this track of kind of going through a tumultuous time in a relationship and then wanting to get back to a good time, a good place, wanting to make more memories. It's absolutely feel good and blissful and lovely and romantic. We get even more romance on the track Winner's Circle, which features some gorgeous jazzy chord changes, some breaks on the track that feature vocal scatting, which you don't hear a whole lot of these days, but comes off really well on this record. On the song King James, you see a very sharp blend of synth funk and hip hop, nothing all too new for Anderson, but I do love the socially aware and politically charged lyrics on this track, the nods in the lyrics to gentrification, as well as black culture, Colin Kaepernick, and painting LeBron James as a leader and important social figure who has used his success in the NBA to help others in his community and become this symbol for change. Given the beat on this thing, the tone of the lyrics, Anderson .Paak's very charismatic vocal delivery, this song has more sting than any other in the track listing. The song Jet Black is yet another quality soul tune on here with a quality hook, bit of R&B blended into the mix, and Anderson does have some good vocal chemistry with none other than Brandy, of all people, who appears on this song. I have not heard her on a track in a long time. But who I haven't heard from in an even longer time is actually Nate Dogg, for obvious reasons, rest in peace, who appears on the last track on this record via some unreleased vocals. Undoubtedly, Dr. Dre may have been kind of the plug on that. And for Anderson on this track, there was actually a lot of material to work with in terms of these Nate Dogg vocals. There is a full chorus here, there's a full verse here, there's actually even some studio banter that he works in afterwards to make it seem as if they're kind of naturally and casually interacting after the song, a la Kendrick Lamar, Tupac on To Pimp a Butterfly. And the tune on this track is so incredible and so solid. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Such a lovely and feel-good send-off to the entire album. It brings this album to a wonderful moment of finality, not only because it's just such a solid and beautiful song, but also you know that given Nate Dogg was one of the most essential voices of the 90s, and just Anderson .Paak's overall style and delivery, Nate has undoubtedly been a huge influence on this man's sound, on this man's music. And the way that he so wonderfully interacts with these vocals and takes so much care in the performance and the craft of this song, I'm getting a little teary-eyed thinking of it. You know, you could really tell that Anderson .Paak just so did not want to mess this up, wanted it to be great, wanted to not only just function as a great song on its own, but also just be a great tribute to Nate Dogg as a singer and as a performer. I could really feel sort of like the love that he has for him as an artist as he was kind of like, you know, performing along with these vocals and just kind of doing what he was doing on this track. It was actually like really great and really moving, and it's you know, it says a lot. It's like it says a lot. So, Yeah, it's a really great ending to the album. Really great ending to the album. So overall, it is a very solid record. I will say once more, I do prefer Oxnard, mostly because there are like a handful of somewhat malformed moments on this record. But the highlights that are on here, they are very, very, very high. And I also think it speaks very much to Anderson .Paak's abilities as an artist, that he can come together with a record of songs that are essentially left over from his last big studio session for his last big record, and you could pull all these tracks together and make another very good album. I am feeling a decent 7 on this one. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Anderson .Paak, Ventura Forever.